Hi, and welcome to 501c3. I'm your host, Kim Jones, Executive Director of the Nonprofit Village. This show about nonprofit organizations is featuring those who have the 501c3 designation by the IRS because they provide a public benefit, and in most cases, that makes their donations tax deductible. We're proud to partner with Montgomery Community Media on this show to highlight the fantastic nonprofit organizations and services in the county. MCM is your public resource that provides access to information relevant to our community. Today, we welcome Jackie DeCarlo, the Chief Executive Officer of Manna Food Center. Manna works to end hunger and food insecurity in Montgomery County through food distribution, education, and advocacy. Jackie, thanks so much for joining us today.
I'm very pleased to be with you, Kim.
Yeah, this is very important for the community because of all of the work that you do and the services that you provide. So if you can start just very briefly, remind us what your mission really means to people in the community.
Well, Manna Food Center was started by the community actually to make sure that anytime a neighbor had the experience of not knowing where their next meal is coming from, that's kind of an easy way to understand what food insecurity is, they would have an organization to turn to. And we were created 35 years ago with the mission of sharing food, building skills, and addressing the reasons why people are hungry in the first place. And so what that means is that we offer food at about 18 different sites around Montgomery County. We have nutrition education classes, especially on a really cool bus named Manny, where we try to get kids and others enthusiastic about cooking healthy and on a budget. And then we also have an advocacy task force where we try to address the policies that can kind of decrease the root causes for hunger in the first place.
Wow. So it's a very comprehensive program, and you're touching a lot of different aspects of the community. How many are you serving every year?
In our last fiscal year, we reached about 34,250 or so people. We do that because on a monthly basis, people can turn to us as a family and receive food. We also, on a weekly basis, through a great partnership with MCPS, reach school kids who receive free and reduced meals. And then we also have participants who come to our classes or are involved in our advocacy work as people with lived experience. So if you add all of those up, that's where we get that number.
Wow. Well, now, one of the things I remember is last year, when the federal government shut down, you changed your income requirements, and I think in other emergencies you've done that as well. Is that something that you have to deal with, and how does that work for people that usually are under an income requirement in order to receive services?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I want to spend a little time explaining it. So right now, people are eligible if they're residents of Montgomery County, if they fall under what's called the self-sufficiency standard. And that's a very generous calculation that says, what would it cost you to live in Montgomery County, work in Montgomery County, and take care of your family without SNAP, is food stamps, without housing subsidies or childcare subsidies. So like my mom, when she was a single mom, if she lived in Montgomery County in these days, with me and my sister, she only had a high school education, she'd need to make about $83,000. So anybody below that is eligible to receive our services. But as we know, in today's economy, there are always people living paycheck to paycheck. So while they might not fit under that self-sufficiency standard, one catastrophic event or difficulty can really tip them over. And something like a federal shutdown or something like the COVID emergency, where people are furloughed or they're laid off, or a two-person household, two-parent income, and one person loses their job and they have to survive on the remaining income. That's why we waive, in those kinds of crises and emergencies, that's why we waive that income eligibility.
I see. Okay. So we're going to go to break pretty soon. But before we do that, there are some video shots that we have. And I want you to describe a little bit about what happens with your food distribution. If you can just take about 30 seconds to talk about your food distribution, where food comes from and how it's distributed.
We get food from many different sources. When we do Smart Sacks, they come in a plastic bag that a volunteer community organization has packed with the healthy food that we give, and it's distributed through MCPS. And then our Food for Families, we receive food from Capillary Food Bank. We purchase food. We get donations from grocery stores and farmers markets. All of that goes into the food that we're able to offer.
I see. Okay, so you're working with a lot of partners, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about that because I'd like to know more about where you're partnering with other organizations. You do a great job of collaborating. So it's time for us to take a little bit of a break. When we come back, we'll find out more about Manna and how they help fight hunger among so many vulnerable people in our community. You're watching Studio 501c3 on Montgomery Community Media. Please stay with us.
I think someone at my friend's school has this thing called autism. My friend's brother's son has autism. My neighbor's son has autism. My son has autism.
Autism is getting closer to home. Today, 1 in 88 children is diagnosed with autism. That's a 1,000% increase in the last 40 years. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs.
Brush, brushy, brush, brushy, brush, brush your teeth. Every day and every night. Brush, brushy, brush, 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 brush. Know what you're doing, son. Here's what you gotta do. You have to have your toothbrush so that they can brushy brush your teeth. Good job, you're almost done. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now spit! Help your teeth stay healthy. Brushy brush with a grown-up every day.
Welcome back to Studio 501c3, your information center for Montgomery County's premier nonprofit organizations. I'm Kim Jones, and with me is Jackie DeCarlo, the CEO of Manna Food Center. Jackie, thanks again for being with us today. So before the break, we started to talk a little bit about some of your partners. You talked about the Capital Area Food Bank and others that you work with. Tell us a little bit more about where you get some of your food donations and also some of your direct monetary donations and how people, just an average everyday person, might be able to help.
Well, we definitely know that no one agency can create food for all. And so we really believe in partnership with groups like Capillary Food Bank or the Food Council. In fact, partnership is one of our core values. Respect and service are the other two core values. And so we really try to leverage relationships from that go way back. I mentioned earlier, we've been around more than 35 years. Our first food donor was Giant Food Store. And to this day, they are still one of the grocery store chains that we pick up from. But then we also are able to make purchases because and pay payroll because one of our big partners is the county. We're very proud to be the designated food bank of the county, to administer something called the Community Food Rescue Network. These are all with county funds. During the recent COVID emergency, we got a special supplemental to help us make sure that children could, even though schools were closed, they could receive Smart Sacks where needed. So big agencies, small agencies, but I really appreciate what you mentioned. Individuals help us. In fact, the biggest chunk of our revenue comes from individuals, and it can be people giving according to their means. So sometimes it's a $25 a month online gift that happens just once a year at the holidays, and sometimes it's people who give out of their donor advised funds or their required minimum distribution from IRA. So it's the whole gamut. We have a very generous community. And so we really appreciate that. And anybody who's interested in donating food or funds or even their time can learn more about those possibilities at mannafood.org, which is our website.
Good. So donating food, a lot of people have questions about that and what they can donate, what they can bring. And sometimes it's even something as simple as, gee, I could pick up extra fresh fruits and vegetables. Are those kinds of things allowed? Because a lot of people think that it's only non-perishables, canned goods that have to be donated. So what are the range of donations that you can take?
We do have on our website our most wanted list, and that's because we don't want to just be handing out food. We want to address some of the reasons why people have diet-related diseases. So these are nutritional items that we really seek. And produce, that what you just gave as an example, is something that we are able to receive. We just finished a major capital campaign that allowed us, again, thanks to the community, to get a larger cooler. We have freezer space, and so we can accept at our Gaithersburg location.
Okay, that's great. And then with the nutritional information, that references back to what you were talking about earlier with the Manny bus and how you do some of your classes and how you reach out in different ways. You're not just distributing food, you are actually educating and advocating for people and families. And I think that's important that you bring that all together. I mean, that is such a more of a holistic way of serving.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out too. We're I one time did along with my spouse, I tried to challenge myself to live on a manna box and what was in our home pantry. And it was a very abundant allotment of what we got. There are only two of us. And then that time I didn't want to waste the food, but there was some stuff I didn't know how to prepare in a healthy way. So that's why we focused on choice, so people can choose what they want at most times, and also to build skills.
Right. And you have a beautiful new facility in Silver Spring that allows people to come in and shop as they would in a typical grocery store. So that is very cool, the way that you visioned that and set that up. I'm proud to say that's also in my neighborhood. So that's where, if you remember, we danced in your parking lot when you opened.
Right. It was a great opening day, and thanks for being there, and thanks to the whole community for welcoming us in the East County. Right.
Yeah. So relationships, individuals, the county, everybody is helping, and this is just very important. I think that everybody needs to understand where, all of this, is and where it's going. So for more information, you can visit the Manna Food Center website at mannafood.org. I want to thank Jackie DeCarlo, the CEO, for being here and sharing this information with us. I wish we had more time. There's so much more that I could have asked. But I hope that you'll join us next time on Studio 501c3, your window on nonprofits in Montgomery County. Jackie, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you very much for this opportunity, Kim. Take care.
I'm Kim Jones, Executive Director of the Nonprofit Village. We'll see you next time on Studio 501c3 on Montgomery Community Media. This episode of Studio 501c3 was sponsored by MBA Growth Partners.